chasing aesthetics causes body dysmorphia, or at least that's what Zack has alluded to in this latest video. Zack Tellendar is amazing. I'm obsessed with his content. He seems like such a nice guy. He does Olympic weightlifting, and we're going to dig into a little bit of the previous stuff that he's done in a little bit. He's on a video on Omars' channel where he talks a bit about this topic. I'm not familiar with Omar, but it seems like he's got a really big audience and he's into kind of athletic aesthetic, so chasing aesthetics but being athletic whilst doing it. And it's really eye-opening to see people having this conversation, and I'm really glad to see it. As you know, if you've seen my content, it's something that I have experienced myself, and we can see it being a problem in lots of areas of the fitness industry. A really quick, super obvious disclaimer time. No, this does not happen to everybody. Yes, there are plenty of people that I'm sure can chase aesthetics and not end up with body dysmorphia or any other sort of ED. Whatever you want to do with your own body is absolutely your own choice. I'm not here to demonize that or say what you're doing is wrong. You can do whatever you want to do. What I would like though is for people to be more mindful of the issues that it might be causing them, and we know this is really prevalent, especially in bodybuilding and other physique focused areas of the fitness industry, especially with the rise of TikTok as well, really driving that aesthetic of people that want to go to the gym to look a certain way. Now let's listen to what Zack has to say.
8 or so months ago I decided to focus on aesthetics. I wanted to put on mass and continue to weightlift at the same time. And so what I did was I changed my mindset to be focused on my aesthetic. What that did to me was a lot worse than what I would have expected. I started, focusing on aesthetics, doing a lot more hypertrophy training, and it was working well, and I wanted to show that off a little bit. But what I did was I opened myself up to criticism that usually I wouldn't really care about, but because my goals were around aesthetics, I cared a lot about them. And it was really starting to mess with my head.
So he went from training for strength and performance to training for aesthetics, and he was open about that on his YouTube channel, and he started to receive a lot of hate, and it also made him focus on his body a bit more. And it's so clear how much joy he finds in training, and that was just a thing that he liked and a thing that kept him fit and healthy, and changing it to try and shape his body to look a certain way had a negative impact on how he felt about sport. But this next bit is really shocking, and it's something that I can massively relate to.
I've never really cared about what I look like, never. I just love training.
Yeah.
And I love increasing numbers or changing my goals, whatever that may be. And when I changed it to wanting to look a certain way, my stress and everything, went down the shitter to the point where I would eat a meal and I would consider wanting to throw it up. That is something that I would never foresee myself doing. But you have hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And
he got to the point where he was thinking about throwing up after eating, and we know that is bulimia, basically. I'm not diagnosing him. He obviously didn't do it. He considered it. But that's the eating disorder that I have. And this is exactly what happened when I started to focus on aesthetics. But I actually did slip back into that ED. Now, I've had this since I was about 13. And I'd have periods of being in remission and then periods of getting sick again. But one of the biggest things that drives my ED is focusing on aesthetics and trying to shrink my body. I got into CrossFit performance and I loved it for that reason. But then when I got into it, I started to lose weight quite naturally. And then obviously after that, I started to pursue a calorie deficit because I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to be thin. I wanted to be skinny. I wanted to look good. And that started to have a massive negative impact on me and my ED. I started to restrict my calories terribly low to 1,200, maybe even less than that on some days. And I was also deep in my ED with the bulimia. I was frequently body checking, and I was just in this vicious cycle of people praising me for my weight loss, telling me how good I looked, and then me further pursuing that weight loss and trying to make myself smaller. I can't imagine what this must have been like on this scale where Zack had 100,000 YouTube followers at the time and he was talking about his aesthetic journey. Thankfully, he didn't spiral into an ED like I did, but it's clear that he had some of the early signs of a difficult relationship with body image and food.
I've interacted with dozens upon dozens of content creators, but some people that you wouldn't think are hyper fixated on these things, it'll be like this. You'll sit down, then they will sit down, and they'll look at you, and then they'll be like this. And they'll be a foot ahead in order to get the angle. And this sounds crazy.
crazy.
This sounds crazy, but they'll go to publish a photo with someone else, and they're like, can you just show me that? But I don't like that physique photo, right? This hyper fixation on yourself that I don't think obviously is healthy.
Omar's point here is really interesting, that when he has other content creators on, they will literally get closer to the camera in order to make themselves look bigger in comparison to him or other people in the shot. And that although they may come off really confident, they're trying to like out angle each other because it's so much about aesthetics. And having that kind of insecurity play on your mind constantly to the point where you're thinking about how you present in a video, that can have such a huge impact on somebody's mental health. He also goes into people posting photos and that they will criticize the photos and say, please don't post that one because they didn't look the way they wanted to look, and there's a hyperfixation around the aesthetic and how they look, which again I totally relate to. This is something that I had a major problem with. Even at my thinnest, I would constantly be thinking about how I looked in pictures and how I could present myself in order to make myself look smaller or look like I had more abs. My image and how I looked would take over my brain like 24/7 because I didn't feel like I had any value unless I looked the way I was supposed to look. And this was so damaging for me that I basically didn't experience the things that I was supposed to be experiencing because I was just worried about how I looked. And Omar also points out that this kind of mindset is not healthy. In an industry where it's supposed to be about health and fitness, it often really isn't. And we get into some dangerous territory where a lot of things can be very disordered behaviour that can actually do more harm than good. What really gets me is there is absolutely nothing wrong with Zack's body in this picture. He didn't need to chase aesthetics. Obviously, if he wants to do that with his body, that's absolutely fine. And I have seen a huge trend of men saying that the reason that they need to get in shape is because women only want men that have a six-pack, and in my experience that is totally not true. And this could be a whole other video, you could go really deep into this. What most men subscribe to is what women find attractive is actually more like the male power fantasy and the male gaze. What women tend to find attractive en masse is more the female gaze, and you can look this up on TikTok, but you can really see this if you just think about the men that women massively obsess over. We've got Pedro Pascal, we've got Tom Hiddleston who plays Loki, Jack Black in The Holiday, people love him. Jude Law. So Henry Cavill is a little bit of an outlier, but women like him when he dresses in like fuzzy sweaters, wears like his lion hat and plays Dungeons and Dragons. And they also don't like him so much in films like Superman, but they like him in The Witcher where he's more fuller figured and a bit more hairy and rugged. And many women tend not to be as appearance driven as men are. But there does seem to be, especially in the like red pill, like alpha male sector, this massive fixation that women only like men with six packs, and it's simply not true. Zack does not have to change his body to look good to women or to men or to anybody else. His body was absolutely fine as it is. If he wants to chase an aesthetic though, that is completely fine. But it's really interesting how damaging it can be to try and change yourself to suit what other people want, especially a massive audience on YouTube.
The same can be done with numbers.
Yeah.
So if I attach a value to myself with the numbers that I lift, ultimately the same thing that's going to happen when I was focused on my physique is going to happen there.
I love that Zack also points out that it can be damaging if you do the same thing with numbers, and this is definitely something that I've experienced too. It's so cool to reach your goal of deadlifting a huge amount of weight. I deadlifted 185 kilos this year, and that was insane. I never planned to deadlift that much weight. I don't know how it happened. I wasn't even training for it. I was just doing Olympic weightlifting and suddenly I could lift that much. My cleans have got a lot bigger. I can snatch a lot more. I can lift really heavy weights as a weightlifter, both in the powerlifting style movements and the Olympic weightlifting style movements. And I don't care anymore. I literally don't want to get stronger. It doesn't bother me. Maybe I will at some point in the future, but right now I am in a very similar position to Zack, and I just want to focus on having fun, enjoying it, getting fit and healthy, and not always chasing this goal, always feeling like I'm never good enough. It's that comparison trap that we can all fall into.
I'm at a place now where I'm actually trying to relearn things and do things differently so that I don't focus on my numbers. And I don't really want to deadlift more than I have before as of right now. And that's totally okay. And I want to be able to accept that going forward. Decades go by and you're still hitting those numbers. Like that is, you are literally sacrificing your life for something that actually isn't who you are.
Yeah.
You're a human being. And the more I continually have this self-talk with myself, the safer I think I am, the safer I feel.
And we can tell ourselves that it makes us better and that we're just trying to like strive for greatness or whatever hustle culture will tell us. There's something to be said for just enjoying your life and experiencing life and not selling your soul 24/7 for a physique or for numbers or for anything that is basically seeking external validation, which is something that I've really realised. I love that he talks about self-worth and sacrificing your life basically for something that isn't who you are as a person. How much you can lift at the gym and what your body looks like says nothing about how you are as a person or the life that you get to experience. There is so much more to you than your numbers or your body. And coming from Zack, coming from somebody that I respect so much, and I know a lot of other people probably do as well, it's so refreshing to hear, because we don't hear this conversation enough. And unfortunately, when larger bodied athletes like me say stuff like this, we don't get listened to as much because I'm in a larger body. So people just assume that I must be unhealthy, not know what I'm talking about, and be talking absolute nonsense because I haven't achieved what they want to achieve with their body. But when it comes from a creator who is in a very athletic body, people might listen more.
Better, bigger, stronger, rather than like contentment. Like a lot of us start this journey because we're trying to improve something within ourselves.
And this moves the conversation on to contentment, and that's what we should be striving for. And I totally agree. It's just the most wholesome conversation. Often, one of the main reasons people get into the gym is because they want to look better. And although better is completely subjective, we are all attracted to different shapes and sizes, different bodies. People have a perception of what they think better is, and that is quite frequently the reason people start. And that's why it's so important that this conversation is had, because it can quite easily go from a very health-focused behaviour into something that is disordered and can start causing damage to your mental or physical health. My journey with that is long and complex, and my journey with my body image is even more complex. If you'd like to hear more about how I deal with my body image issues and work on body acceptance, then watch this video next. If you feel like you need help with your body image, accepting your body, and figuring out how to train in a way that makes you feel good and doesn't focus on trying to shrink your body or trying to make your body look a certain way, then I have a membership group. And I used to be an ex-teacher, so it's a lot like you basically get a curriculum throughout the year. I'm giving you worksheets, I'm giving you journal prompts, I'm doing videos for you and writing posts that will help, activities and tasks and workout menus. And you also get to live chat with me and a community of other people on the same journey. I've also got a free option where you get to see a couple of the posts for free, so check out the link in my description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!